Hello and welcome to the Astrology Forecast. My name is Sage. Here is your eye into the sky, letting you know what the cosmic events are for the week, why they matter, and how you can use this information in your everyday life. This is now my third YouTube forecast, so feeling like we're getting into the flow of things. Thank you so much for everybody that has already subscribed. If you have not already subscribed, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell. It would really be appreciated. I love the support. I have seen so many of you resharing, talking about the forecast, asking me for the link to the forecast. If you are following me from Instagram, you can find that link in my bio in my Instagram profile. So really, guys, exciting news as we are ending eclipse season, and we are fully in the midst of Scorpio season at that. Happy solar return to all my Scorpios out there. If you are looking for a birth chart reading or a solar return reading, I do have those at a discount for you right now. Just hit the link below. And if you are looking to understand more about what to expect in the month of November, as we do have November 1st approaching very quickly, this week actually, definitely look into booking a monthly forecast reading. These are readings where we look at what to expect based upon your birth chart for the month ahead. It's like getting the roadmap before you go on the drive. So definitely go ahead, hit the link below, and you can also book that as well. So we are officially out of the eclipse portal. It officially ended yesterday on the 28th when we had that full moon eclipse. And of course, just always want to emphasize to please reflect on what lessons you've learned, what has culminated and kind of come into fruition and maybe seen a finale in a sense ever since end of 2021, beginning of 2022. This is truly like the end of that cycle in life. So really think back to what's happened for you and how you've maybe changed or what in your life has transpired since then. We also have Halloween coming up this week. Happy Halloween. So I will actually be touching on a few of the astrological things occurring on Halloween, as I know some of you have messaged me and you're like, what's happening on Halloween? I want to know, I want to understand, because obviously it's a day that people are celebrating. And please stay tuned till the end because the most important cosmic event of the week is happening towards the end of the week. So definitely stay tuned as we have a very big major transit happening with a planet actually going direct. It's been retrograde for a very long time. So let's dive right in. We're going to start with today, October 29th. If you're listening today, I am posting this today. But again, you might be listening to this later in the week. So understand that this particular aspect is actually in effect pretty much all of this week. It goes direct today, October 29th, but it is an energy that we're going to be feeling sort of into the beginning of November. So this is Mercury and Mars. They are what's called conjunct or together in the sign of Scorpio. Now, these two planets have been in Scorpio for a little bit of time, right? This is not the first time they've been in Scorpio. It's been a few weeks. But they are officially at the point where they are essentially on top of each other. They're at like the same degree. So this is very significant because this is essentially the blending of these two energies. So before I get into the astrological implications of what this all means, let's just stop for a moment and break down both Mercury and Mars. So Mercury is the planet of communication, right? So Mercury is all about our mouth and our mind. It's our intellect, essentially. It's how we process information and how we express that back out. So Mercury is very important. It deals with everything involving talking, buying, exchanging, any type of like one-to-one interaction like that is very mercurial. And then we've got Mars. Mars is the planet of battle. Mars is all about our willpower, our desire, our drive, our ambition. Mars doesn't go down without a fight. You know, Mars is the one planetary energy that will not only not go down without a fight, but Mars actually might start the fight, right? Because Mars understands the value of meeting things head first. Interestingly enough, Mars is actually in its home sign in Scorpio, meaning that this is the sign that Mars rules over. So Mars is super comfortable being in Scorpio. Mercury, on the other hand, is doing all right, right? Scorpio is, as you guys probably remember from last week, if you didn't already listen to all about Scorpio, please go back and re-listen because that's an energy that the sun is experiencing this whole month, along with other planets such as these two. So it's a very important energy to really grasp as we're in the midst of Scorpio season. So Mercury in Scorpio is quite biting with our words, right? Because Mercury is all about communication. And as we know, Scorpio is not for the faint of heart. Scorpio is a much more intense sign focused on the depth of one's soul and being. Scorpio is fixed water. This is the water that's at the bottom of the ocean, right? The bottom of the sea, the lake, the pond. It's resting water. It's still water, but it also can represent very different types of forms of water, right? So we have fixed water, such as the water that's not moving in a lake or a stream or any type of body of water. But also, if you consider fixed water can be like ice. Fixed water is like an ice cube or an icicle, which can pretty badly hurt us if you've ever stood underneath an icicle. I'm from New York, and I have been hit in the head with icicles, and I remember getting like a huge like bump on my head as a child because I got hit with an icicle. And that actually has a lot of significance when you understand Scorpio energy. Sometimes Scorpio energy is like getting hit with an icicle. Like it comes out of nowhere, you weren't expecting it, but man, that thing hurt. And so this is really the energy of this connection between Mercury and Mars being together in Scorpio. So now we look at the blending of these two energies, we make sense of that, and then we see how it's applying into our own life, right? That's really the art of astrology. And so Mercury and Mars together in Scorpio is extremely intense when it comes to communication. This is the time when heated debates, conflict, speaking our truth is in full force, but the thing is, this is not padded with any sort of cushioning, any sort of politeness or political correctness. Scorpio throws all that out the window. Basically, after Libra season, all of that gets chucked out the window. All those social niceties, all of that, looking to get along, say what needs to be said because it's the right thing to say. That's all very Libra. But when we reach Scorpio, Scorpio is like, I don't really care about how it looks or about how it sounds. I care about if it's real, if it's true, if I'm actually tapping into the depth of what this thing is. And so, as these two planets come together in the sign of Scorpio, expect the conversation that needs to be had to come up to the surface, right? Scorpio, again, is all of the deep darkness that's lurking beneath the ocean, beneath the water. And so, with Mercury being the planet of our intellect, our mouth, and our mind, it's everything that's being expressed outwardly, right? It's conversation. We're taking all these shadows, all these creepy creatures that are lurking beneath the surface of the water, and they're coming up to the surface, right? We're now bringing them up from the depths and we're discussing them. We're shining a light on them. The sun is here. So the sun is illuminating this part of our life, our chart, our, psyche in so many ways that when we have this conjunction, this Mercury Mars conjunction in Scorpio, expect communication to feel maybe a bit more true, right? Maybe a little bit more in depth. It can feel intense. It can feel heated. It could feel like like the scorpion stinger. Like somebody says something to you and you're like, ouch, that stung. Yeah, that might be true, but ooh, we're not worrying about delivery. So I want to let everybody know of this energy as it is in effect all this week, because it is something that's going to affect us very readily. Mercury is a very close planet to the Earth, which means that its cosmic energies are felt much more readily than other ones. And so, really taking an understanding as to what this is super helpful. So, just be aware of all of that. Beware of lies. Beware of dishonesty. This can come as an opposing energy that can happen, especially when we're dealing with Scorpio energy. Scorpio likes to be private. It likes to be mysterious. It likes its secrets. Yes, when it speaks from truth, but at the same time, Scorpio is going to plot its revenge, and sometimes it won't just come forthright and say it. It'll do it in a way that's maybe a little bit more vengeful or manipulative. There's a possessive quality here, and so be conscious that this is all occurring when it comes to our mind, our intellect, our thought processes, our communication style. This can definitely show up in communication with any person that we're connecting with, but please look at your birth chart. Notice where you have Scorpio, because that's going to show you the most specific area of your life that this is getting activated. Now, on top of that, both Mercury and Mars are opposing the planet Jupiter, which Jupiter is all about expansion. Anything that Jupiter touches, it expands, right? Jupiter is very positive, it's very lucky, but when it's forming an opposition, or basically it's literally like directly opposite these two energies, this is like a square off, right? We're literally coming face to face. And in this sense, Mercury and Mars are going to get expanded by Jupiter's energy, which It sounds great because Jupiter is such a positive energy. One would think that maybe this will help things, but at the same time, Jupiter just wants to grow and expand. It's not always for better or worse, it's just is. And so whatever needs to come up to the surface, be expressed, Jupiter is just here for it. Jupiter is like, yes, let's say 10 more things about that, right? It's going to expand it. It's going to want it to really be almost like larger than life, which, Scorpio is very intense. So when we expand this larger than life intense energy, this is what to expect for this week. So just a heads up with that, as this is a much more in depth and maybe a little bit more extreme energy than what we're used to with Mercury being in a Scorpio conjunct Mars. So that is the first major cosmic event of the week. Now, moving forward, again, I know a lot of you were messaging me and asking, like, what's going on for Halloween? So I did want to know what is happening on Halloween, as we actually do have a pretty cool cosmic event happening in our sky. It's not major, it's not one of the most important things. You may or may not feel this energy, but it is something to note. So on Tuesday, October 31st, we have Venus in Virgo forming what's called a trine, or a very harmonious positive relationship with Uranus in Taurus. Now, what this essentially means is that Venus, the planet of beauty, art, love, romance, everything that we value, right? Love and money. Venus is forming a really good connection with Uranus. Uranus is all about switching things up, changing the status quo. Uranus is the planet of ingenuity and freedom and rebellion and wanting to break out of whatever confines we've been in. It's all about kind of progressing to the next level, which this does have a lot to do with how Uranus was even discovered, which I've talked about previously. But so really, this is a beautiful time to find some more ingenuity in our love and our romance, and especially even with our finances. If you've been thinking about new and innovative ways to either make money, or maybe when it comes to your dating life, your social life, maybe, different experiences that you can have with people, maybe different types of people you can connect with, this is the day that if you are, seeking a little bit more progress when it comes to the things that you value, this is the day to do it. It's much more supportive in the sense of, breaking out of the boundaries, whatever boundaries and borders you've been living in. Uranus is going to break free of that. And when it's forming a positive relationship with Venus, all these Venusian matters, everything involving our relationships, our creativity, our connection with the people in our life that we love, even with our own self, right? Our self-esteem. Maybe you've been looking at how you can switch up your own aesthetics. Maybe you've been looking to change your hair, or I don't know, buy some new clothes that maybe are a little different than what you're used to. This is the day to do it. Now, it's funny because it's on Halloween. And so Venus being all about aesthetic and like your style, your clothing, your fashion choices, obviously it's kind of funny that it's happening on the day that everybody is wearing something crazy and wacky and like very different from the norm, because that's exactly what Uranus is. Uranus is the planet of like, if that's how we've been doing it, let's go and do it this way. Like Uranus doesn't want to do things similarly to how it's been. It's not a traditional planet. It follows after Saturn, which is the planet of tradition. Uranus is like, okay, you didn't think that there was anything beyond Saturn, did you? Right? Because the naked eye, you can only see up to Saturn. Uranus was that surprise planet. I always say it's kind of like the WTF moment, because we didn't even know Uranus existed until the last like couple hundred years. So it's a much more innovative, much more shocking, much more OMG type of planet. And so I think this is super cool that both Venus and Uranus are in a positive relationship. This could have been something else, and it could have been more negative and things might have felt more tense, but it's not. It's positive. And so, not saying that we're going to wear our Halloween costume all year long, but maybe, you get inspired by the style that maybe you kind of take on this day, or maybe you see something that really appeals to you, or maybe you go to a Halloween party and you meet some new friends or a new potential, romantic partner, and that kind of sparks something different, right? Again, this is all about being different and innovative and progressive and kind of, again, switching things up, but always looking for greater elevation and growth. That's why Uranus is all about progress and wants progression and wants elevation. It just doesn't want to do things the normal way. And so really, really cool aspect to look at for Halloween. Again, if you celebrate, if you don't, then just know that this is happening on Tuesday, October 31st. And then we enter into the new month, or the new moon, right? As we enter into November. So we have November 1st happening, of course, on Wednesday. But the first major cosmic event, and the last one that I'll be discussing for this forecast, is happening on Saturday, November 4th. Let me grab a sip of water, and then we're going to talk about what this is, because this is honestly the most relevant, most significant cosmic event that we're experiencing for this week. Okay. So this is Saturn going direct in Pisces on Saturday, November 4th. So, little backstory. Saturn entered Pisces on March 7th, 2023. So this year, Saturn left Aquarius. And if you know, you know, all my Saturn and Aquarius babies were shouting hallelujah because your Saturn return ended. And so Saturn entered Pisces on March 7th. This was the day that we finally had this transit occur. Now, when it first entered Pisces, of course, it was moving through Pisces in a direct motion. It was going through the degrees in a forward way. But then on June 17th, Saturn stationed retrograde. I did talk about this on the forecast back in June. And we discussed, what to expect over these few months when Saturn is retrograde. So Saturn being retrograde, again, Saturn is the planet of tradition. Saturn is the planet of time, right? In fact, Saturn is represented in mythology as the Lord Kronos, which is the Lord of time. Saturn's all about maturity and responsibility. Saturn is all about structure. Saturn cares about things being solid and stable. In terms of like speaking on energy, Saturn is that planet, that cosmic energy that seeks to just essentially crystallize everything that comes into form. So anything that Saturn touches, it becomes much more tangible, much more 3D. It's like, okay, you can, live in the clouds, but where are we actually seeing some tangible result? And that's very, similar to this whole Saturn and Pisces energy, because as we know, Pisces is a mutable water sign. This is the sign of water that has no boundaries, no structure. Pisces wants to just simply flow. This is the two fish, and they're just swimming around, right? There's no lanes in the ocean, there's no structure. You're just swimming in this vast ocean. That's really what Pisces is. It's this vast ocean of emotion. And those of us with Pisces placements know it's both a blessing and a burden, because yes, Pisces can feel and empathize with all other signs because it has a little piece of all the other signs, being the 12th sign. Now, Saturn being in Pisces has been an interesting combination. This is something I've been repeating a lot of, which is, head in the clouds, feet on the ground, because Pisces is the daydreamer. Pisces loves to escape into other realities and seek out other dream worlds. Whereas Saturn is like, okay, but we need to make this thing real. We need to have some groundedness, some structure, some stability. And so Saturn and Pisces, look to where you have Pisces in your birth chart. I suspect that you've been seeking to create more structure in this area of your life. Maybe you've had to take on more responsibility or find a way to kind of, create a more tangible approach to whatever you've had your dreams around. Because, Pisces is very dreamy. It's very kind of rose-colored glasses. And then Saturn takes off the rose-colored glasses, and it's like, that's great. I'm glad you've got the dreams, but now let's make that a reality. And so ever since June 17th, we've had this retrograde, and this retrograde has been really asking us to reflect on all these Saturn and Pisces questions, basically thinking back on, how have we put in enough work? Where have we put in enough work? Do we need to improve things? Retrogrades are times when we can reflect on what needs to go better, what hasn't gone as good, what has gone amazing. Retrogrades tend to reflect on things from the past in order to propel us forward. They're necessary cosmic breakpoints, check stops, whatever, rest stops, that's a better word. So that way you can, properly assess where you're at and then move forward with a better plan. And so I really encourage you to think back on what's been happening basically throughout the summer and into the early fall, as Saturn has been retrograde in Pisces. So again, knowing where you have Pisces is very, very helpful. If you don't know where you have Pisces and you would like to know more about that, go ahead and message me and we can dive into your chart, because knowing this is going to amplify these forecasts by 10. You're going to understand way more about where this energy is showing up for you. So reflect on where this energy is in your life. Reflect on, have you had more chances, more opportunities? Maybe some situations have occurred that have asked you to really reflect and think about, what is working here? Where have I put in the work? Maybe where do I need to take more responsibility? Maybe where am I needing to kind of grow up? Saturn is the planet of maturity. And so when it's retrograde, we might have been confronted with situations that forced us to say, like, am I growing up or am I going backwards in life? Saturn wants to know, what's your place in the world? Maybe those of us with Saturn and Pisces going through Saturn return, we've been really questioning this. Even if you're not going through your Saturn return, maybe you're past that or you haven't approached it yet. Either way, knowing where Saturn is helpful, and understanding maybe where you've been seeking greater clarity, some more structure, some more responsibility. This is super, super important, because now that Saturn is going direct, all of these answers are getting solidified. When Saturn went direct, or sorry, when Saturn went retrograde, it was at 7 degrees of Pisces. Okay. It started at 0 degrees on March 7th. By June 17th, it was at 7 degrees. But get this. Now, today, Saturn is at 0 degrees of Pisces, meaning that it has moved 7 degrees backwards. What's interesting about that is a lot of what occurred between March and June, I suspect between June and November, you had to sort of maybe go back over. That's sort of the theme when we have retrograde planets moving back over degrees that we've already passed through, is that we tend to have to revisit whatever situations and circumstances were present during that time. So, a lot of time to reflect, a lot of time to take in, what's been working, where could I maybe put more mastery into this area of my life? Where can I grow this area of my life? Again, this is what Saturn is asking us to do. So now that Saturn is direct, we get sort of a fresh start. This is sort of like a renewal phase where now that all of the questions have been asked and we've been kind of going back to the drawing board and really seeing, like, what's working, what do I need to put more work into, we can now take those answers and put them into action, implement a plan. Saturn loves a plan, you guys. Saturn is all about having some framework around it. And so we've had time over these last few months since Saturn has been retrograde to really create a roadmap, a plan, get the blueprint set out, right? We might have not been taking as much action in this part of our chart. In fact, it might have even felt a little slow and frustrating. Like, man, we were moving, right? Between March and June, we were moving. And then all of a sudden, June 17th hit and that retrograde slowed things down. Saturn is already a very slow planet. It can cause frustration because it takes a while to mature, right? This is why Saturn return is when people are officially adults, because that's how long it takes for Saturn to mature. And so, now that Saturn is direct, we really get a second chance to go back over again everything that happened between March and June and put more action into place, put more plans into place. Whatever steps need to be taken, especially if they've been thought through and they've really been, kind of crystallized into form. Now is the time when we might find a lot more progress, a lot more forward motion, and a lot more success in this area of our life. So a lot of good things to be had here. And we have a while, right? Saturn is now going to be direct until next June, specifically June 29th. So we have a while of Saturn being direct for us to actually implement everything that we've taken the last 3 months or so to really consider and really get, clear within our minds. So that way now things can really move. Saturn is all about mastery. It's kind of the pass or fail planet. It's going to bring a lot of lessons. It's going to bring a lot of, making sure that you're living up to your potential essentially. But once you've figured out what that looks like, especially if you've taken the necessary time these last few months, now that Saturn is direct, we can really see this come into fruition. And that's really the gift here. So know that this is a very positive week of forward motion. Going into November, we have a lot to look forward to as we are officially out of eclipse season. We might still be feeling the effects of this most recent eclipse we had. So don't be, shocked if you still feel a little bit of that leftover energy. But know that as we pretty much enter the last or the second week of November, we're really out of the eclipse portal energy, and we're really entering into a whole new layout for the next month of November. And again, if you would like to know what it's looking like for you specifically, book a monthly forecast reading. You do still have time. I've had people do monthly readings 2 weeks into the month, so that way they can reflect on what's happened and also know what to expect the next 2 weeks. So there's no time that's too late or too soon. But if you are interested in knowing what to expect for November, I highly recommend you book a reading with that. And guys, next week we have Venus entering into Libra. We've got Mercury entering into Sagittarius. So a lot to look forward to as a lot of planetary shifts are coming in November. So again, thank you for tuning in. If you did find value in this video, please go ahead and hit the like button. Apparently YouTube really likes that. The algorithm picks it up very well. So please help me out by hitting that like button. And again, if you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And I thank you all so much for tuning in. I send you guys so much love, and I will see you all again next Sunday.